your reaction to yesterday's terrorist attack?
Well, we're absolutely heartbroken and shattered. We send our condolences to the families and a swift recovery to those who were injured. But I have to say that we have often warned British officials, the British government, that anti-Semitism is out of control in the UK, and it hasn't been done enough. Words are not enough anymore. There has to be deterrence. There has to be actions. The Jewish community in the UK is unsafe. They are being targeted, violently attacked, murdered. They cannot walk in the streets with Jewish symbols. They have to have a heavy guarded security on their synagogues to go and worship and prayer, on their school, on children. I mean, this is absolutely out of control, and there has to be actions now.
A letter written by your president to the King Charles, just days before this attack here at the synagogue in Greater Manchester, talked about the rise of anti-Semitism in the UK and other Commonwealth countries as well, Australia and Canada. He had been in the UK, in London, talking to members of the Jewish community here about their fears. And what he heard prompted him to write this letter to King Charles. And he talks about it being a watershed moment in history. As I said, this letter sent just days before the Jewish community's worst fear was realised. But it gives a sense of what the Jewish community have been saying and perhaps feeling that the UK authorities, the UK government, have not been listening.
Absolutely. And it's very sad, because any other minority that would have been targeted that way, that slogans would be chants in the streets to murder them, to rape them, any other minority that their businesses would have been attacked, that numerous times they were attacked just for wearing Jewish symbols or yarmulke. Any other minority, it would have been dealt with the utmost severe measures possible. Yet somehow, anti-Semitism, racism towards Jews have been normalized in the UK. I mean, if you go and speak to Jews living in the UK in the last 2 years, they will tell you how unbearable this has been for them. Businesses who have been boycotted, who have been trashed. My cousin, who is homeschooling her own daughter for a year now because she was stabbed in the neck with a needle, and no one did anything about it. Jewish students are unsafe in public schools. I mean, look, Britain was always the light of morality, this incredible country who defeated the Nazi murderous monster. It's been such an important part of our history. The Jewish community, who for generations have been part of the British culture, all of it is being destroyed. And there hasn't been any actions. We've been warning about the demonstrations, about the slogans. When they chant in the streets, globalize the Intifada, that's how it looks like. It means killing and murdering Jews, not just Christians. That's what it actually means when they go in cars with loudspeakers calling to rape Jewish girls and their mother, to kill the Jews, and no one even called them for an investigation. What message does that send to the perpetrator, to those violent, racist thugs?
And in response to
what more do you want the UK government to do? The Prime Minister coming out strongly yesterday, an admission from the Prime Minister that anti-Semitism in the UK is on the rise. The statistics back that up, but the Prime Minister standing up and saying that, and he promised to tackle it. What more do you want from the Prime Minister? Because, you know, there is already security around Jewish schools and synagogue. Sadly, it is a way of life for the Jewish community, not just in the UK, but around the world. In terms of making an effective change to make Jewish people feel safe, what needs to be done by the UK government?
I think the first step would be not to have a double standard. I mean, I've seen just in recent days how even when people condemned Hamas, there were police officers arresting them even at 1 o'clock in the morning. Yet when you see those slogans calling for the murder of Jews, calling to globalize the Intifada, intimidating Jews, saying Zionists out, that's what it means. It means hatred. It means a call for violence. And I expect them, at least as a first step, to be dealt with the same measures as they would with any other minority, without discrimination. I expect them to be protected. I expect that when a Jewish student come and complain about a violent action about him, the principal will deal with it, will expel the student or do serious measures about it. I expect that the police will have orders, not to forbid Jews from walking in a certain side of the road, as if wearing a yarmulke is a provocation. I mean, those are the kinds of things that were let during the last 2 years. And I think that's the least
Deputy Foreign Minister,
as a first step that should be taken.
Deputy Foreign Minister, it has to be said that, Jews in Britain will say that since events of October the 7th and what's happening in Gaza over the last 2 years, they have felt more concerned, more frightened for their safety. And on that note, I just want to ask you about the peace deal, which was announced on Tuesday by your Prime Minister and the President of the United States. Hamas given a number of days to look over this peace deal. This seems a real step forward. And I just want to ask about the progress of that.
I have to say that anyone that excuses violence toward Jews, intimidating Jews in the UK with what is happening in Gaza and the war of survival that Israel is actually working on defending itself is outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
Conflating the two has been pointed out that it is completely wrong, and we have reflected that.
Hold on.
But just in terms of an update on that peace deal, it's a separate issue.
There are no Iranians in the streets that are being threatened or attacked. There are no Indians or Pakistani that are being threatened or attacked or murdered in the streets of London. There are no Russians, businesses, or people or churches that are being attacked because of a war. This is just part of those excuses that are giving those racist monsters an excuse to racially attack Jews and murder them. You have a problem in the UK. You have Hamas activists that are let to do terrorist activities. You have IRGC officials, agents walking down your streets, working in your streets. Muslim Brotherhood, they didn't just attack Jews. What happened in the stadium during concerts or any other attacks like that? This has to be dealt with. Those demonstrations, many of them are being funded and being pushed by Hamas operatives. When they are led to chant, globalize the Intifada, what do you think will happen after that? It has nothing to do with Israel.
Language and action matters.
And importing the racist normalization and demonizing of Jews and Israel from the Middle East into the UK.
I completely get that. Conflating what's happening in the Middle East with an attack on British Jews should not be happening. Jews have been living under threat in the UK and globally for far longer than what happened after October the 7th. But just what I'm asking for is an update on that peace deal. As I said, we heard about it on Tuesday. We were told that we would get more information in the coming days. So as the Deputy Foreign Minister, I'm simply asking you for an update on that because people are watching it closely.
So as it has been for the last 2 years, whenever Israel had a diplomatic path to resolve the war and to bring back our hostages, we chose a diplomatic path. This is lying right now in Hamas's hands. been approved and accepted by all the Arab countries, including Qatar and Egypt and Jordan and many others. And it's been accepted by Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu accepted that deal, even though the concessions and the difficulties politically and defense-wise, strategically as well, we've accepted that. But unfortunately, what we see from Hamas's leadership is, again, turning their back and refusing it for it. And I have to say, this is very simple, because this has nothing to do with a territorial dispute and have everything to do with a religious and ideological and a cultural dispute.